Hey guys, welcome to the Dave Darren Show tonight. I'm going to start the show off by giving you a little introduction about what I want to talk about. Old vintage wood guitars. And people go out looking for guitars in the 80s and the 90s because they said the woods have aged right and they want to play that type of guitar. Do vintage guitars sound better than today's guitars? You can always now, you can buy replacement pickups for all these guitars. I've actually built my own guitar with a Lollar pickup, L-O-L-L-A-R. I think there's two L's in the L-O-L-L-A-R. It's a really cool pickup. Let's get to the theme song of the show, or a opening song of the show. I'm going to play, you know what, I'm going to start off with Minaj, and I'll tell you a little bit about Minaj after you hear the song. These guys are tremendous. Check them out. Here we go.
Portraits we were sold, echoing blackouts, waking on the floor with the chaos of downtown, marching at your door. We're sorry for the things we do, running through a crowded room. Sorry for the things we do, yeah. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. Are you dying from daylight? Let's keep our heads off it. We'll be reminded on late night. But the shade will soon be in. Let's abandon the death race. If we're fast we can get away. They call us a disgrace for the songs our parents play. We're sorry for the things we do, running through a crowded room. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. Everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours and we've only begun. The things we do, they say will bury us young. One last chance is better than none. I miss the sounds of Echo Park. I miss the band that we would start. The things we did, they said would bury us young. One last chance is better than none. I miss the sounds of Echo Park. I miss the band that we would start. The things we did, they said would bury us young. One last chance is better than none. So kill the bright lights, everybody run. This time is ours, we just begun. The things we do, they said would bury us young. One last chance is better than none.
Okay guys, welcome back to the show. So tonight I said I want to talk about guitars. I'm curious about guitars and amplifiers. I'm sure a lot of musicians are. And a lot of people, we don't share our knowledge about guitars and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, the other thing I want to talk about is Gibson Guitar Studio. And I want to talk about Gibson in general. That's what kind of started making me think about the topic for tonight, being guitars and talking about guitars. So let me just tell you, I'll go briefly through this because I know a lot of you think I talk too much about my own fucking show. I had someone actually respond and say, on one of the recent shows I did and said, Dave's a total dick because all he cares about is his show. But I do this show for you guys, for the 1,451 of you who have been bands, guests on my show. And I've been doing this show for you guys. If you don't realize that by now, I'm not going to explain it to you anymore. So I will explain to you what happened with the show, where I had all these hopes, expectations, and dreams of getting the show on Sirius XM. So the way I was going to make that happen is I put, if you guys remember, some of you did fill out the form. I put in davedarren.com/sirius.asp. I was hoping some of you guys would fill out the form and recommend the show, put some comments out there, and about 50 of you did. So now when Sirius XM sees 50 people caring about the show, that means that's 50 people that they're going to get potentially to buy subscriptions to the show. So they didn't really have any interest. Then I thought, but I have a second angle in by doing the show from Manhattan, New York, obviously Manhattan, New York, at Gibson Guitar Studios, 57th Street and Broadway. Tremendous place, right across from Central Park, right? So before I got on the airplane to go back to New York City, I think like 3 days before I got on the airplane, I got this thing from the PR firm that recommends the show, or represents the show rather, and PRs for the show. I got from her that Gibson wasn't calling her back, and she was confused as to why. And sure enough, about 2 weeks after, there's an article in CNBC and all these other venues for news. It talks about Gibson, and it talks about Gibson's financial woes that they've got going on. So then that's why I started thinking about guitars and woods, and I'll tell you why. Gibson right now, and I'm not going to say that all of these facts are completely accurate. They're probably a moving target, so I'm not going to be able to be precise or exact, and you read stuff or you hear stuff. So I'm just going to say right now with a grain of salt, some of these things might be accurate, some of them might be very accurate, some of them may be slightly inaccurate. Gibson is potentially in a bad situation financially. By the end of July, I think I heard the date, sometime in the end of July, some debt is going to come due. And it's a lot of debt. I had no idea that you could buy bonds. Bonds are a thing that I remember a long time ago, U.S. savings bonds. You could buy U.S. savings bonds, right, from the United States backing the bonds. There were bonds that are made available from Gibson, which is unusual. I didn't know about bonds with private companies. I know about stocks. I know about 401ks. I had no idea about bonds and companies. But supposedly, Gibson sold a bunch of bonds. I guess you buy them at $5 or whatever they cost per bond issue, and you hope to sell them for $6 or redeem them from Gibson at some future date. I guess they date stamp them when you can turn them in. And hopefully, instead of getting $5 for them, you get $6 or $7 times the amount of bonds you bought, and you make some profit, right? Supposedly, the bonds are due sometime. I think sometime after July. I think their debt from the bank is due earlier than their bond debt, or vice versa. I'm not sure, but supposedly they got about $350 million in bonds due, and about $150 million in traditional bank loans. So you add that up, it's $500 million. That's a lot of money, right? So they've got to, now I'm not going to say they're going to go bankrupt. Like I said, I have no idea, but financial woes means what do they have to do? They have to refinance, or they got to figure out what businesses they bought into, and they bought into a lot of business. They try to diversify from guitars, because you got to realize guitars today, they're not selling like they used to sell. And why is that? Electronic dance music, electronic music, synthesized music, where you don't need to be a guitar player, you don't need to spend 10,000 hours, which is typically what I heard is the amount of hours you got to practice your instrument before you're considered really to be stage ready. Unless you're one of these savants who can do it, or prodigies where you can get up there and with a small amount of hours and kick total ass, right? So guitar sales have come down. So there's not as many guitars being sold. And of course, there's imports that are coming in from Japan, made in Mexico guitars, Korea, that are chewing their way in to the guitars at a lower price. So all of these things are an issue for Gibson, which they had to overcome. And then there was also, I'll come back and talk about it. Right now, let me talk about playing a song. First of all, you heard Minaj a second ago. Minaj I met in New York City. I think they're a Canadian band. In fact, I'm sure they are. I think they're from Quebec, or we're supposed to say Quebec, right? They're a tremendous band. You just heard Minaj. Now I'm going to play the Chimps. Everyone knows the Chimps, or maybe you don't. They're from LA. They've had 3 songs on Sons of Anarchy. So they're a tremendous band with a really great product. They traveled to New Jersey. I found out they were. I went to see them in New Jersey. They played at the Brighton Bar in Brighton, New Jersey. They put on a great show. But I got to say, there were not enough people seeing them. A band which got 3 songs on Sons of Anarchy, a great band. You're going to see the video right now. I just don't understand why there's 30 people checking out a great band in New Jersey. Now, maybe the promotional efforts should have been better. Maybe getting on my show would have been one of the ways to make it a better audience coming in to see you guys. So here we go. I'm going to shut up. Let's play the Chimps here. Welcome back to the Dave Darren Show. That was California by the Chimps. Earlier we heard Minaj. And I'm talking about a little bit today, I'm talking about the Dave Darren Show, and some of you were curious as to why the switch to country, blues, and jazz off of the rock and metal show that I used to do. I'm still doing, obviously, tonight I get the rock on. You'll hear some metal mixed in here. And you will hear for probably the next 4 or 5 weeks a tribute to the bands who have cared about the show all these years. And caring about the show means that the ones that have pressed the share button, but that really, if you got to think about it, that's why I have only 38 in the Rock Warrior list. Tonight you're going to hear the bands that are in my recognition list because they actually did hit a share button and they share the show to a degree. The ones that I'm calling rock warriors did more than that, because I went to the statistics of my show and I saw that those 38 bands were the ones that did more than the minimum, because their show got a lot more views than the other shows did. So I've got it. So, but if you really think about it, 38, you can add 38 together with 17 and you'll come up with a number. And you go to my website, davedarren.com/podcast.asp. You can scroll down and you can see and count up over the last 7 years the 1,451 bands that have been on the show. Now, if all of you guys threw in a helping hand to promote the show, hit the share button, but you got to do more than that, because I was attempting to get the show on Sirius XM, but how can I make them think that I'm serious about the show and about their subscribers and their listeners when I can't convince the rock and metal bands to be serious enough to not only share the show, but to get on the groups that they belong to on Facebook and promote the fact that they're on the Dave Darren Show. And all you got to do really is copy and paste, and then take the paste and just put it in all the groups that you belong to. It's a real simple thing. It's a Control V. If you don't know how to do it and you don't want to hit the mouse to do it, it's a Control V on your keyboard, Mac or PC. It's the same thing, Control V, and that'll paste it. You go to your next group, you paste it. You go to the next group and you paste it, and the show builds up. But it never did build up over 7 years, so I've got to switch now to the country and blues and jazz genre, because I did an experiment, and I see that when I have country, jazz, and blues artists on, more country than any of the other genres, when I have a country band on, like Justin Johnson, I get like 30,000 or some views, or not that much. He broke the record. He was at 38,000 views or something like that. The other ones were still at like 7, 8, 9,000 views, a couple of them at 15,000. And that's a whole lot more significant than 2,000 views that I get when I have the rock and metal bands on. And that's only when the rock and metal bands actually go through some promotional efforts. When they don't, and I did an experiment of me not promoting on the Facebook groups I belong to or sharing the show, I figured I'll do some experiment and see what it gets when I rely on you guys only to promote the show. Then it gets 300 views. So I help you guys get 1,700 views. You guys get 300 views. So, you know, that's the criteria I've got to think about.
Good morning, you crazy Phoenicians. It's 27 minutes after 6. It's gonna be another beautiful day here in Arizona. I hope you're good looking with a great body and got yourself a pair of roller skates, because it's gonna be a jolly good day to be on wheels. I'm DJ Dojo. Let's hear the newest track from I Am We.
Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. Yeah, I can't let go. No, 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 no. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. No, I can't let go. Oh, girl, this time you hold it in your hands. I'm open like a locket, baby. I know that we lost it, maybe, but all the times we crossed over the line. Yeah, I know that we lost it lately, but looking back, I need you, baby. Remember our first dance, the kissing, the romance, the touching with our hands, exploring our worlds. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. I can't let go. No, 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 no. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. No, I can't let go. No, 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 no. And girl, this time I wanna be the one. 'Cause even when I push you, pull me, holding on to what we could be. All the times, like an anchor in a storm, you're always holding on so steady and loving me like I need it, baby. Remember our first dance, the kissing, the romance, the touching with our hands, exploring our worlds. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. I can't let go. No, 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 no. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. No, I can't let go. No, 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 no. Can't live it without you, babe. Oh, can't live it without you, babe. Can't live it without you, babe. Oh, oh, Remember our first dance, the kissing, the romance, babe. Remember our first dance, the kissing, the romance, the touching, with our hands exploring our worlds. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. I can't let go. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. I can't let go. No, 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 no. Hey, you're the one, and I can't let go. I can't let go. No, 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 no. Can't live it without you, babe. Can't live it without you, babe. Can't live it without you, babe. Oh, baby, no. Can't live it without you, babe. Can't live it without you, babe. Can't live it without you, babe. Oh, no, 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 no.
And now, right now, I've got two people listening to the show, which, to be honest with you, having two people housing a show that's been doing business for 7 years, having two people listen right now, that's why I get so fucking frustrated. And I think shouldn't I deserve to get frustrated when I have two people listening to the show right now? A show that's been on for 7 years, that had 1,451 bands on the show, and not enough of you guys are carrying the weight to make the show significant, to make it a significant advantage to you guys to help build your musical careers. And that's what some of you tell me you want to do. You want to get out of your day gigs and do music because you love music. That's your passion. Your day job is not your passion. My day job is not my passion. My passion is doing the show. But when I have two people listening to the show, and it's still two right now, out of 1,451 bands that have been on the show, times 3 people in each band, that means that you guys aren't sharing the show. You're not sharing your love. You're not sharing the unity amongst each other. So I've got to switch genres, and I'm going to. Like I said, I'm going to switch genres to country, blues, and jazz because I got to give someone else a shot at it because I gave you guys a shot for 7 years. So I keep on going back to that because I'm frustrated. When I look at the count and I see 2 people watching the show, it does fucking piss me off, and it should. Shouldn't it? It pisses you guys off when you're playing at a stage and you put your hearts and souls into the music that you write, and so few fans are there. So what do? You either stop doing the shows, or you stop playing at shows, or you get pissed off like I do and you start getting hostile. So something that you love doing, eventually you become tainted and bitter. And I do. I'm no different than you guys. I get tainted, I get bitter. You guys maybe blame your fans, or you should blame your fans. And I know you guys don't do that because the few fans that you've got, that 30 checking you out at the gig, you don't want to piss those 30 off, so you don't blame your fans. But in reality, how many people out of that 30 go to your merch booths and buy shirts and stuff like that? How many of them get online instead of going to SoundCloud and Reverb Nation and getting your shit for free? How many of them go to iTunes and actually buy your music? So why don't you hold your fans accountable? Because I'm holding you guys that have been on my show, the 1,451 of you, minus the 38 Rock Warriors, minus the 17 or 18 that I consider ones that I want to recognize, which are the bands I'm playing tonight, which have done some work to promote the show, but not as much as the 38 bands, which I'm calling the Rock Warriors. I hold you guys responsible for, to be honest with you, the failure of this show. And it's failed not because of me, because I think you see my drive, my ambition, my work ethic to bring the show to a bigger audience, but you guys don't share in that effort. I was hoping to get the show at Gibson Guitars Studio in Manhattan. Gibson now is suffering financial woes. I'll talk about a little bit more why that advantage I thought I had to get you guys, and by the way, it was getting you guys on SIRIUS. It wasn't getting me on there. I'm the host. I deliver the show. I don't entertain the people on my show. You guys do. You entertain them with your personalities. You entertain them with your rock personas, your rock personalities, minus the rock egos. By the way, when you're on stage, we need to see a rock ego. We come to see rock egos. We don't come to see plumbers, electricians, and house builders. We go to see rock musicians. We want you to have confidence on stage. When you come off the stage, the rock egos have to go away and you have to greet your fans like people, right? Willing to support the people that are there to see you. But when you're on stage, you know, some people say these guys on stage are like fucking rock monsters and rock egos. Yes, don't you go there to see and be entertained by rock stars, even if they haven't hit the rock star numbers yet, or the rock star Grammy Award winners. We go there to be entertained by rock personalities that have confidence. There is nothing wrong with having a rock star ego on stage. Nothing at all. And some people don't get that, their panties bent out of shape when a rock guy is up on stage and they say, that guy looks like a douchebag. No, he's an entertainer. When he comes off the stage, if he's not meeting you, then there's maybe some reason. Maybe he's got the flu or something. So you cut him a break once in a while. But for the most part, if you're not meeting the guy and he's like someone that's distant, then maybe you can say he's got a rock ego. But when he's on stage performing, he doesn't have a rock ego. Let's play another piece of music. What do we got now? I've got Demon Boy. I've already played Minaj and the Chimps. This is Demon Boy. They're another band from New York City. Tremendous band. Let's check them out.
Oh, there's some fire in my brain!
Your feet
that was Demon Boy. They're a New York City band, and they play New York City a lot. I think they tour, actually, once in a while as well. And I know they're interested in making a tour out to Alice Cooperstown, which Alice Cooperstown in Phoenix, Arizona, if you guys don't know, it closed down, which is really a bummer. I mean, I got to tell you something. The music and the support of music for rock music and metal music, we've got to unite. We've got to form a foundation to bring it back. And I tried to do this with this show. And I think a lot of you guys know that. I'm not going to dwell on it tonight, but we see venues going out of business. We see new venues opening. In fact, there's a new one in Phoenix called BLK Live. It's a really kick-ass venue, outside pool, which you can't use in Phoenix at this time of year because it is cold at night. And there's a stage up there. It's a great stage, a great venue. But we get these foundations like Martini Ranch, which I remember used to be in Phoenix. It's no longer there. I think it's another venue now, though, at least. And you get Alice Cooperstown to close down. Alice Cooperstown with the name Alice Cooper, it closes down. So something's wrong. When a named establishment closes down, now granted the sports venues in Phoenix, Arizona, don't have the Diamondbacks, which won the World Series back in whenever they won that, 2002 or something like that. And it was hopping downtown. And Alice Cooperstown is right in the middle of that sports area when the teams aren't doing that great. There's less people going into town to see the sports venues, which hurts the venues. But nevertheless, so I thought I was going to be able to get the show on Sirius based upon, like I said, based upon the 7 years worth of energy I had with this show when it was the rock and metal formula. And with the support from 1,451 bands, I was hoping you guys would help to carry the weight. But I thought I had another ace in my pocket by having Gibson Guitar Studio home the show, where I could have bands come in that were in New York City, play at Gibson Guitar Studio. The bands, like I mentioned, the Chimps, when they traveled to the East Coast and they played in New Jersey, at the Brighton Bar in New Jersey. I would have loved to have them come to Gibson Guitar Studios because I thought that was going to happen. But what happens if you look at CNBC and you look at some of the online formats, you see that Gibson now is in a struggle financially. I talked about the first thing. They've got like $500 million in debt. But let me talk about some of the other stuff. The guitars themselves, like I said, guitars now are harder to sell because of the EDM music, which stands for electronic dance music. Electronic means they're not playing the instruments, it's synthesized instruments. And everyone now, they have their pianos, and you can put every instrument that sounds really like the authentic instrument through the keyboard. And if you're a keyboard player, then you play the guitar, you play the harp, you play the trumpet by playing the notes and just pressing a button to switch it to that flavor of instrument, right? You've got amplifiers now. I've got what's called a Yamaha Magic Stomp pedal where I can synthesize a multiple amount of amplifiers. I can make it sound like a Vox amp. I can make it sound like a Fender Twin. I can make it sound like a tube amp. I've got another one of these Magic Stomp amps for an acoustic guitar where I can make it sound like a Hummingbird or any of the other acoustic guitars that are out there, because you can press a button. There's 99 presets on each of these things to simulate what I want the guitar to sound like. So in other words, there's shortcuts now to making music without having to spend the 10,000 hours playing a guitar. So guitar sales are down. Obviously they are. And you've got the companies like Greco and all these guitar companies that make, you see them on eBay. You see the lawsuit guitars out there. They're copies of the Les Paul. It $500 for a copy of a lawsuit Les Paul, when a real Les Paul custom from a custom shop, how much are they? Like $6,000, $7,000 for one of those authentic original 50s models that really sound like the 50s, but they're not the 50s models. If you try to go out and buy a original 50s Gibson, you're going to pay like $100,000 for them. $80,000, I think that's what they are. So it's incredible. So what's happened now is Gibson is having a hard time. If you think about the woods perspective, I was hoping to have some guitar players call up and talk about the woods of the guitar. Are the vintage wood guitars worth the extra money, where you're looking for a vintage guitar from that 70s, from that 60s, from that 50s, from the 80s even? Because the woods have matured. I was hoping a guitar player that plays now, who has played for a while, would maybe know the answer to that. Because all my guitars, they're all the vintage woods. And they sound good, but I don't know how they sound compared to today's guitars. Are they comparable? Let's play another song right now. Let's play Saint Madness. They're an Arizona band. I thought they were a kick-ass band. They still play. I think they play less because they're starting to get to be older guys.
Why do you feel so far away? All my memories seem clouded. Not long ago you were here with us. Now fresh dirt covers your grave. Don't get me wrong, I know you live in the golden fires of heaven. I just thought that I would still feel you, but my heart is dry as a desert. I watched them lower your body into the ground. Yet I'm the one feeling claustrophobic. Your spirit is free now to roam as you please. And I'm stuck here on this tiny planet. Turning on air, life is killing me. What is the true reality? The way the heat can suffocate when you're drowning on air. Drowning on air, life is killing me. What is the true reality? The way the heat can suffocate when you're drowning on air. Fear is strangling my heart. It's hard to do anything. Most of my tears are on the inside. I can't seem to let it out. I'm screaming in my silence. You can see it in my eyes. I wish I could talk to you just one more time. Trying to breathe as my chest heaves. Trying to stand tall, but I feel crippled now. Please God, heal my broken heart. Please help me to find peace. 'Cause I've never felt so alone in my life. Drowning on air, life is killing me. What is the true reality? The way the heat can suffocate when you're drowning on air. Drowning on air, life is killing me. What is the true reality? The way the heat can suffocate when you're drowning on air.
What happened with Gibson and why my show is no longer being aired or pre-recorded with bands coming into Gibson Guitar Studios, because I said Gibson is suffering from hard times. And here's one of the reasons. About 20 years ago, Gibson started having trouble based upon the availability of the woods, the vintage woods that I'm talking about for the guitars. And what happened is, by the 90s, they were starting to run out of these great woods. And they started making guitars in the whenever they started, but they started becoming really popular like in the 50s. Everyone's buying a Gibson 50s model guitar, and they were being made by woods that were 100, 150 years old. These old pieces of wood that were supposedly some really great quality sounds from the acoustics of these woods. So by the 70s, the Gibson guitars were really pumping out a lot of these guitars. A lot of guitars were being sold by Gibson. So the amount of woods that they had in their backlogged inventory started being depleted. And you had the complications from what I remember, because remember I said I was playing in the 70s, everyone thought that the heavier guitars had better sustaining capabilities. Everyone buys a guitar. Of course, all of the electric guitars that are not semi-hollow or hollow and they're solid bodies, you play them and you can't hear them at all unless they're plugged into the amplifier. They are the solid body guitars are the sustain animals. Everyone started thinking that the heavier guitars with the thicker, heavier woods have better sustaining capabilities. So if you think about having heavier guitars, more wood, they were depleting the wood even quicker for the amount of huge inventory of guitars that were being sold. So that 150-year-old wood started being depleted. And then, of course, you've got on top of that, you've got the EPA now, which are all saving trees because obviously trees breathe in carbon dioxide, they breathe out oxygen. So now we have the EPA saying that, we can't cut down these vintage trees any longer. And obviously, they got a lot of them. I remember I went through North Dakota, where they have the giant sequoias, where you can actually drive your car through the middle of the tree. It's that big of a tree. If you guys have ever been there, I've been there driving into the trees. I don't even know if you can do that anymore because that seems like it's damaging the tree to have the holes in the tree where the cars can drive through them. So I don't think you can actually cut holes in trees anymore to make traffic patterns. So everything now it's a nightmare. Then Gibson had to take the amount of great vintage quality wood or great wood that was probably, of course, less than 150 years old because they depleted that amount of wood. So now they've got to take that great quality wood and put it in their higher priced guitars. They're hummingbirds, and I've got a hummingbird. I play a hummingbird from the 80s. So it's a vintage guitar made with some of that better wood. So now to make hummingbirds the quality of product worth the $2,800, $3,200 for that guitar, or for some of their jazz boxes or their, the quality products that you're willing to potentially pay $2,500 for, they've got the good woods reserved for them. And the other products are made of cheaper woods, and people realize that. But then you can buy the copies coming in from Mexico, Korea, and Japan for $500 to $700, and you're getting a guitar that's a ripoff, which looks like a Gibson, and for the most part, sort of sounds like a Gibson. If you're not building a career in your music, you're willing to play that less quality guitar for the very small difference in sound. It's a fiasco. So that's why Gibson is having a hard time. They've got debt that they've got to pay, $350 million in bonds, $150 million in traditional bank loans. Then Gibson's now has to compete with lower quality wood because the woods are not as easily available as they were in the 70s and 80s because that wood's been depleted, the older woods, because of the amount of huge quantity of product that was kicked out in the 70s and the 80s when the demand was extreme. And now, like I said, the EPA is all over their back to not cut down these quality trees that deserve to live, right? And the trees, obviously, in today's polluted environment, we want to have carbon monoxide sucked in by the trees and oxygen put out by the trees, so they're being preserved, and rightfully so. And now so Gibson's got all of these nightmares to deal with. Plus the fact that, like I said, guitars are selling less of them now because of the EDM music, the synthesized voices, even not talking about the instruments, we've got the auto-tune voices. So everything now is not instrumentation. There's not a demand for the instrument. There's not a demand to learn the instrument with the 10,000 hours to learn how to play the guitar so that you could create your musical performance on stage. A lot of stuff now is synthesized. So it is a mess for Gibson, which became a mess for me because, like I said, the thing that I thought would be my saving grace was doing the show at Gibson Guitar Studio. And man, what fucked up timing. Right now we got Gibson potentially filing for bankruptcy or refinancing or selling some of their diverse products. And that's another problem Gibson had. And I'll tell you about that when I come back. Let's play some more music. So what do we got now? I've got, let's see, we've got Peppermint James, a Phoenix band. I'll tell you about them when I play the track. Here we go.
I'm tired of your lies. I'm tired of the solution. Kitchen outside. I'm tired of your mind games. I'm tired of tonight. Baby, get some answer. Leave me tonight. Oh, oh, please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Oh, oh, please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Don't do me, please don't do me. This is nothing better. This is all there is. This is no solution. Living in the fields. You cut me down. You kick me underneath. With all this pollution, how can I breathe? Oh, oh, please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Oh, oh, please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Don't do me, please don't do me. Please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Please don't do me like that. Don't do me, please don't do me. Don't do me, please don't do me. Don't do me, please don't do me.
The chemicals, genetic control, and outside, you never know. It's my passion, lost control, lost my soul, Romeo. The chemicals, genetic control, and outside, it starts to show. Inside, it's outside, she's upside, downside.
Oh, oh, please don't do me.
Don't do me, please don't do me.
Oh, oh, please don't do me like that.
Don't do me, please don't do me. 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 Don't do me, please don't do me.
Thank you.
So I was telling you about trying to get the show on Sirius XM, and I thought an ace in my pocket by having the show at Gibson Guitar Studios. Gibson is suffering from hard times. Here's something else Gibson did, and maybe for some of you guys that are into the business aspects of maybe your careers, maybe you're musicians, and like I said, maybe you musicians want to be musicians more than have your day gigs, but here I'm going to give you a little lesson in business. And here's what Gibson did, which was, I don't know if it's working out for them. I don't think it is. They try to diverse from their main product line, which was their guitars, their Les Paul guitars, their Hummingbirds, their acoustics, their great products, into owning other type of companies. They bought Philips and Onkyo. I remember a long time ago in the 80s, I think it was, they were supposed to have some great components and cassette players. Back then, cassette players were the thing. And Onkyo was a great product. Gibson bought that because they wanted to diversify from their guitar line into actually creating monitors as well. You can go out and buy a Gibson monitor that actually looks like a not a Fender Twin, looks like a Les Paul with the wood of the Les Paul. You know how it looks, and the side panels of the Les Paul, and it looks tremendous. But who wants to really buy that product, that monitor, when Gibson's not known for monitors, right? They're just known for their guitars. And then they're associated with Philips and Onkyo and these monitors, and they're diversing themselves away from guitars, and they're less focused on the guitars. And then they come up with these robotic tuners of some of these guitars. I forget what it was called. And it auto-tunes your guitar. And I know some guitar players who actually own those robotic tuner guitars, and they're up on stage playing, and you don't know what's going to go on with the electronics. Someone told me that their tuning of their guitar during a performance started auto-tuning their guitar to, I don't know, to a drop D or whatever, and it completely was a nightmare. How could you switch then to playing, unless you're a tremendous player where you know the drop D to play an A minor seventh requires this fingering to switch from a drop D tuning. So Gibson spent hundreds of millions of dollars buying Philips, Onkyo, and then extending their monitors and taking away from their primary function to deliver guitars. And then it's like a restaurant where a restaurant starts to panic. And there's this TV show called Restaurant Rescue, or whatever it was called, and I watched it a lot of times. And the guy would go in there, he'd say, "You've got too many menu items. Streamline it down to your best product that you make, your best 5 or 6 menu items." It's like Gibson. They started making too many of these guitars. What was the one that was a complete disaster? What was it? A Firebird X or something like that? I don't even remember the name of the guitar. And it was a complete disaster. No one wanted it. And now they make these guitars that look like the vintage Vans. I think they call it the Van series of guitar, where it looks like the van from that TV show with the dog in it. I forget the name of that. Scooby-Doo. And remember the van in that was colorful? They're making guitars now. Gibson's making guitars with that color combination called the Van series, I think it's called. And they got to come back to their best line of products. They got to maintain the Hummingbird. They got to maintain the Les Paul. And they shouldn't do all of these. I don't know about the relic guitars. I have no idea about the relic guitars or the value in them. They're not vintaged. They're relict. And you pay more for a relic guitar to have a synthesized wear on it. Go back to your base product of the guitars that we want. And then make guitars that are competing with these other imports, the 600 or 700 guitars. You've got the Epiphone series out there. I guess you maintain the Epiphone series. But right now, let's play some more music. Who do I got? I've got this band called SIRIUS. They are an Arizona band. I hope they are still an Arizona band because they were a tremendous band. All the music I'm playing tonight are by bands that I have in my recommended list, and they're really great. Let's check this out. This is SIRIUS on the Dave Darren Show. Here we go.
He could spot any innocence across the room. There's no easier prey than wide-winged angels. Come on now, desperation, all this color in the air. Now watch as his eyes dilate to capture. Oh, watch out, dear Romeo.
Romeo, you bought that poison long ago. Dreams right from your mouth to their heart. Dear Romeo, you bought that poison long ago. Dreams right from your mouth to their heart. Their heart. Romeo, thou art a villain. Thou art a villain. Romeo. These wicked delights have wicked ends. Oh no, dear Romeo, you bought that poison long ago. Dreams right from your mouth to their heart. Dear Romeo, you bought that poison long ago. Dreams right from your mouth to their heart. Their heart. Romeo. Romeo, oh yeah,
That is Freakers on the Dave Darren Show. Let me talk to you about, so this is what I got to talk about, Gibson. And it's a shame that I lost that avenue to get the show to that next excitement level because the timing was bad. And the timing, it was really a bummer. It really was. For you guys that were participating in the Dave Darren Show, the rock and metal bands, and like I said, there's 38 of you I call rock warriors. There are an additional 17 of you guys that I call the guys that need shout outs because you did support the show to a lesser degree than the 38 because I got to acknowledge the winners. You know, people win when they're competing in the Olympics. You win a gold, you win a silver, and a bronze. I've got the gold winners that are the 38 rock warriors. I've got the bands that I'm shouting out tonight, which are the silver medalists. And the bronze medalists, you know what? I'm not calling, forget the bronze. I needed gold and I needed silver people to promote the show. I thought my ace in my pocket was Gibson Guitar Studios, but their Gibson Guitars is having a hard time. You know about it. The thing Gibson did, I said, I'll say it again, is they kind of panicked. And they started building, I did look it up, it was the Firebird X. You should see this guitar. It's a fiasco. Then they started with the robot tuners to automatically tune guitars for the people who are too fucking lazy to tune their guitars. Can you believe people are too lazy to tune their guitars, especially now where you can plug in a tuner. You don't even have to hear it. You can see the electronics at the bottom of your foot pedal and you can see if it's in tune or not. How hard is that to do? Focus on your vintage brand. Gibson is a vintage brand. Focus on what was successful. Now they're trying to focus on trends. Trends are things that pass. They're temporary. You've got the name Hummingbird. Make the Hummingbird. Make the Songbird. I think that's another product. Because I was comparing the Hummingbird to the Songbird. I think that's the other product I was looking at before I bought that acoustic guitar that I like to play. And then they're trying to do these reissue guitars. I'll show you one of the guitars I got here. It's a Les Paul from the 80s. It's called a Les Paul recording model. I'll show it to you guys. This is a 1980s Les Paul recording model. Now it's beautiful, it's black. I did the nasty too, guys. You're not supposed to restore your guitars. I did because I don't have any kids. My wife and I don't have any kids. So I'm gonna take these guitars to my grave. So I thought I would restore it to be, look at this, it's beautiful, right? You can see how it reflects the back. Look at this wood in the back of this guitar. So I restored this guitar, and it's an 80s model. It's got, if you ever watch Les Paul playing his guitar, this is not his guitar, but it's the model of guitar he played called a Les Paul recorder. It's got all these, look at all these gizmos on it. It is a really cool guitar. To me, it still sounds incredible. Now they're making reissues, or they were, I don't know if they still are, but they were making reissues Les Paul recording models. Now, why would you do that to compete with this, which you can still buy these? They're not that expensive. They're like $3,000. Now they're making reissues and trying to sell them at $3,000 to compete with what? The guitars that you can still buy on eBay for $3,000. So, and this model was not that great. Most people did not like all these gizmos unless you really wanted to experiment. So stick with the Les Paul, not the Les Paul recording with all these gadgets on it that are not necessary. So they're doing the Firebird X, they're doing the robot tuners, then they're doing the reissue of this, then they're doing the relic guitars. Stop doing that stuff. Cut your menu down to the Hummingbird, the Songbird, the Les Pauls. Focus on the meat of the things that made you a name rather than diversifying to this incredible stupidity. I'll show you another guitar here that I didn't restore. Now here's my, and this I didn't restore. You can see how beautifully this aged, right? It's got the lines on it here from the wood. And this guitar, it's a 70s guitar, so you can see the headstock on the Stratocaster is thicker. So now, what I'm saying is Fender has stayed more true to their product line without doing the stupid Firebird X and the robot tuners. Fender still makes the Stratocaster and the Telecaster for the blues players, and they're still shaped like this. For the most part, they're like this, and this is a beautiful guitar. It plays great still. Now, I don't know about, like, I was hoping to have some guitar players that tell me that, Dave, you got to modernize your guitars because they don't sound as good, because maybe the pickups are aged and they don't sound as good. Now, I don't remember, I haven't played out since the 70s and the 80s. So I play at home, and to me, this still sounds good enough. Now, I don't go out to Guitar Center and practice and pick up a new Strat or a new Les Paul to do a comparison. And then to really do that, I have to bring in these guitars and play them and see what they sound like. So I'll play another piece of music. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you something else you can do, which pisses Fender off and Gibson off and causes them trouble. Let's play some more music. I've got now Sean Ashby. I'll tell you about Sean Ashby before I play the song here. He's a guy, he's from Canada again, like Minaj is. This song here is Always Belong in New York. This song is what made me go back to New York City. I went back to New York City in hopes of doing the show from Gibson Guitar Studios, in hopes that being on Gibson Guitar Studios with bands coming in, I could get the show on Sirius XM. I had hoped that you guys would have filled out that form I had at davedarren.com/sirius.asp and also sirius.htm. You fill out the form, it would have gone to Sirius XM and me. 50 people filled out that form. Music is important. I think it really still should be more important than it is. You hear it on commercials all the time. You hear it in the Olympics. You hear it at halftime during football games. It is so important and so relevant. And here's why it's relevant too. I was satisfied living in Phoenix. And then I started thinking, okay, I got this opportunity to have the show at Gibson Guitar Studio, so I hopped back to New York City. Plus, this song encouraged me to go back because it made me miss New York City. A song personally impacted and affected me to go back to New York City, and this is the song. Music is important. It's a driver of emotions.
Down the town square, lights are shining brighter than the constellations. What a baby, you could make it. A billion dreamers crane their necks, 1,000 billboards just like gnats compete to catch them. Tiny fish on 42nd Street. If you succeed in this town, honey, every road is Inspiration Street. If you go, you should know. 3 minutes there, and you're never the same. If you leave, part of you will remain. Once you have been there, you always belong to New York. So blind you, they got tricks you don't see coming. Many hear this, few can heed it. So bring your nurse, yeah, bring your lawyer. Big city life can destroy you, swept away. So much gray between the black and white. If you believe in this town, honey, world will lay down at your feet. If you go, you should know. 3 minutes there, and you're never the same. If you leave, part of you will remain. Once you have been there, you always belong to New York. Yeah, once you have been there, you always belong to New York.
Hey, welcome back to the Dave Darren Show. So like I told you, that one song motivated me to move back to New York City. Plus, in parallel to that, having an opportunity to do the show from Gibson Guitar Studios, which fell apart because Gibson now is suffering from financial woes. Entirely a bummer because it was in parallel to me moving back to New York City and the lack of response I had from you guys to fill out that form to promote the show to SiriusXM by pressing a single button and maybe putting a comment in there that you liked the show, you cared about the show, you were a guest on the show. The whole thing was to unite. And I'm sure you guys promote yourselves on the Facebook groups you belong to. And if you don't belong to Facebook groups, then obviously you're not doing enough to promote your bands to the level that you need to, because today is not the 70s and 80s of the guitars I showed you that I own. Today is 2018. So unfortunately, I know you guys complain that the venues are expecting you guys to promote yourselves. That's the way it is now. That's the reality of now. You can live in the past, and I try not to live in the past, although some of you guys say I do live in the past. We don't live in the past, we live in 2018. You got to promote yourselves. The way you promote yourselves, you got to be part of these Facebook groups. And you got to promote yourselves on the Facebook groups. So when you're on shows like mine, if you fucking can't stand me at all, find someone else like me. And there's less of us now because we're all getting burnt out. We have a love of what we do. So if a band was on tonight, I would hope that they put in the effort to promote the fact that they're on the show. And why would you do that? You would do it because next time you come on the show 4 months later and you have your CD release party, then the audience would have grown because you promoted it. Other bands that were on between the 4 months between now and your CD release party 4 months down the line, if they promoted the show as well, it would have grown to a much larger audience. But no one chose to unite. And maybe I was focusing on the wrong bands, and probably I was, because I told you out of the 1,451 bands that have been on the show, I counted and I calculated that there's 38 rock warriors. Those are the bands that did actually promote the show, got on their Facebook groups and promoted the show. And the show got, for those guys, 3,000 or 4,000 views. Compared to the remaining 1,451 bands that were on the show, those are the bands that really didn't do anything. They came on the show, and I don't have no idea why you would spend time on my show and then not promote it. The thing that was really knucklehead about this is when you come on the show, venues want to know who the personalities are that are coming to perform on stage. They want to know if you guys have a business mind, a business incentive, because obviously part of their having you on stage at their venue is to know that you're going to promote the show so that their venue has more people in it buying food and buying drinks. So when they see you on my show and they see you not promoting the fact that you're on my show, it gives them a bad taste that they don't care about being on the show remotely, which is easier than lifting all your equipment to their venue to play. If they don't see the business ethic and the work model that you guys have to be part of this show, they don't trust you to be part of their venue to drive an audience to buy food and desserts and drinks. That's all part of it. So when you come on a show like this, you would think that you would promote the show because you could distribute this show to the venue so that they know your personalities, they know your business motivations, they know your work ethic. They see your great music because I play your music on the show, whether you perform live or I pump in videos of you guys showing the great music that you've heard here tonight. You could share this music with promoters, with labels, with managers so that they know who you are. They know what kind of business mind you guys have, because today is not just music. You have to have the business perspective behind it. They know your music. They know what you look like on stage. They see your great performance and your great presentation. They see your great look. You look great. You're dressed well. I try to dress for my show. I wear all this stuff. I don't have rings on tonight because I was picking up the guitars to show you the guitars. I'm not going to put on rings to pick up the neck of my guitar and damage it, especially for some of the ones that were stored. Let's play some more music. This is going to be a band called Vex in Arizona. Check this out. This guy has a really hypnotic voice. I love his voice, and I've told him that. His voice has hypnotism to it. You will like this track. Here we go.
Let's just be quiet. Ours, our peccadillos, caught in a glistening drench through our trust, to hollow out our solid core. Embrace the silence we've been screaming at a wall. We'll learn to hear the echo, brave the torrents, start the soul. Can I just call you later?
That is Vex of the Dave Darren Show. Before we heard that, we heard Sean Ashby, we heard Frequist tonight, we heard Peppermint James, we heard Saint Madness, we heard Demon Boy, we heard the Chimps, and we heard Minaj. And you will hear Infected Rain in a second because I see Derek join here from 434 Management. Let me tell you about some of the successes that I've had in this show have been when people have shared the show. The way this show had successes was when I had people, specifically bands that were on the show, actually promote the show. And it worked for Infected Rain. Infected Rain is a band that's not even in the United States. They're an incredible band. They are a metal band. And like I said, unfortunately, I've got to switch now from metal to another genre. And the other genre is going to be country music because I really do see the support system for country music is a lot better than it is for rock and metal, with the exception of the small pockets, which Infected Rain is one of them. The 434 Management promoted the show when they were on it. Infected Rain promoted the show when they were on it. I promoted the show when they were on it, and the reason I promoted the show is because I saw them doing it. Sometimes you'll see shows that I've had on. Recently, I've had on, who were they? Cypherella. They were on my show. They're a hip-hop band from New York City. From the big city of New York City with 13 million people that live in New York City. Yet their show got 272 views. And one of the reasons it got all these 272 views is because I didn't promote the show. Because I thought, well, here's the band not promoting the show. What are they expecting me to promote the show when they know I'm a one-man guy doing this show? They expect me to carry all their weight. I don't have a big radio station behind me. If I did, and I had Clear Channel behind me, the problem is I wouldn't be able to play Infected Rain or Cypherilla on a Clear Channel station because they're going to mandate the playlist that I play. So you remember, I'm the one guy out there who's allowing your music to be on the show, but I'm hoping, I'm anticipating, I'm expecting, and now I'm demanding the guys that come on the show to promote the show because it's not going to have any success when you don't promote the show, because then you know what? Why would I promote the show when you're not promoting the show to create the unity that I need? Now, maybe you're going to say, Dave, if you were any type of radio personality at all, you would do that. You know, I don't have the billboard out there, and I would, by the way, boost the shows a lot more if I saw you guys carrying the weight that you've got to carry to get your product out there. I can't be the one-man show that I've tried to be for the last 7 years. I tried to be the one guy that did everything. You know what? Now I'm going to be the one guy that does everything for a genre that seems to care about guys like me, which is country music and blues music.
love the way you talk. I love the way you groove. Your style everywhere. My eyes are lost in you. Lost in you. Lost in you. Lost in you. Thank you guys, we're Apache Pistol.
I will tell you this. Let me backtrack and tell you why I know country music supports this show more. And this is going to bite your asses, I'm sure. And I've said this, and now I'm going to say it again. I got on Twitter. I found 20 bands in rock and 20 bands in country music. Those 20 bands all had to have this one criteria, which was 50,000 or more followers. So I found 20 bands rock oriented that had 50,000 or more followers. I found the equivalent 50,000 or more followers of country bands. Now, country bands. I didn't find the ones that had 2 million, which were the U2 and all those. I found bands that had made it to a degree. They were not the huge rock stars with the huge rock egos that had 2 million followers. I found the ones that had 50,000. I thought that was going to be a good test because they were still hungry. So this is what happened. I went to each one of the 20 rock bands, and I asked them to I followed them. I asked them to follow me back. I asked them to send me music, and I asked them to come on the show and do an interview where I could play their music and talk to the guys. I did the same with the country bands. Again, 50,000 or more followers. I followed them, asked them to follow me back, asked them to send me music, and I asked them to come on the show so I could interview them and talk to them, right? Here's what happened. Here's what happened. The rock band, or let me talk about the country bands first. Then I'm going to show you the minimum that the rock bands did. Country bands, again, 50,000 or more followers. I followed them. 17 of the 20 bands that had 50,000 or more followers followed me back. They personally followed me back. A guy with a tiny show. Maybe they checked me out and they saw that I still didn't really have a great show. But they saw my support going their way. They followed me back, gave me support back. And 13 of the 20 sent me music to have aired on the show. And you know what? 9 of them actually came on my show, which included Justin Johnson. When Justin Johnson was on my show, who has 2 million people that have checked out his videos. You can go to see Justin Johnson. You can see a lot of his videos have 2 million views. He decided Dave's got a show. He cared about me. I'm going to care back to Dave, and I want to come on Dave's show. I had a guy with 2 million viewers. That's a rock star in a country genre who came on my show. Not once, but twice. With a tremendous following. We got 38,000 views on that show. Plus the residuals, which I didn't even calculate. It might be up to today, it might be up to 52,000. I don't know because I track it for about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I've got to focus on what's current to see what I'm drawing from those guys. I'll go back to the rock now. And this is why I've got to switch genres. And how many people are watching me now? 4. That's a shock, right? I haven't lost any of the 4. But here's what I got to say about the rock genre and the rock personalities. Like I said, I went to Twitter. Same criteria, 50,000 or more followers. I followed them, asked them to follow me back, asked them to send me music, asked them to come on the show. Here's what happened. Remember, I said I had, from the country genre, I followed them. 17 of the 20 followed me back. You know how many of the rock genre personalities that are on Facebook with 50,000 or more, you know how many of them followed me back? 3. 3 out of 20 followed me back. You know how many sent me music to play on the show? The country bands. 13 of them sent me music. Zero of the rock bands sent me music to have on the show. Zero. How many, of course, you're going to guess zero came on the show? Of course, zero came on the show. Remember, 9 of the country bands physically gave up their time to come on my show, which included Justin Johnson, who has 2 million viewers on a lot of his YouTube videos. That's the reality. That is the true reality of why I've got to switch genres from rock and metal to country. I got to go to where the following is, where the unity is. That's where it is. I did find Infected Rain. Let me play them because they're one of the bands that actually drew significance on the Dave Darren Show. To backtrack a little bit, because a lot of people said, Dave, what happened? What happened to your SiriusXM expectations? And I will tell you exactly why. I'll go through it again. Like I said, I put together a form for you guys to participate in to help me pump up the show. It was davedarren.com/sirius.htm or sirius.asp. Sirius is SIRIUS, by the way. I had anticipated a bunch of you guys filling out the form, the 1,450 bands that have been on the show. I had hoped that maybe 700 of you, 800 of you would spend the time to fill out the form. I got 50 of you to fill out the form. That shows to me a lack of support. Obviously, it showed SiriusXM because the form went directly to me. It came CC to me. When they got bombarded with 50, they got bombarded with the idea that Dave's got a show. Like we know, because they've told me, they have told me that they see today's original music, not today's original rock music, by the way. Let me isolate it to original rock music. They see today's original rock music as not having the drive, the work ethic from the bands, the business motivation from the bands, to have them have an interest in rock music, today's original rock music, because they can't sell subscriptions. Because you guys don't drive enough energy to your shows to have a bunch of fans come in and see you guys play at the Bitter End or the Rockwood Music Hall or Bowery Electric in New York City, which is where I am, or at Whiskey A Go Go. You can go to Whiskey A Go Go in LA. It is not what Whiskey A Go Go used to be a long time ago. I'm at the Brighton Bar in New York City, in New Jersey, by the way, in Brighton, New Jersey, with the Chimps, a band that has had 3 songs on Sons of Anarchy, who have tremendous views you've seen, or videos that you saw one of their videos tonight called California. They are a tremendous band. But when I was at the Brighton Bar, I saw 30 people seeing this tremendous band that has music on Sons of Anarchy. So when SiriusXM sees a band that's on my show not sharing the fact that they're on my show and not caring about my show, you know what? SiriusXM doesn't care about my show. They don't care about you guys. And I can't create a fake energy of my show, because now today's electronics and today's social media makes all of that transparent. Now, I could have gone on and I could have bought followers and I could have bought likes. I could have boosted the show and I could have done all of that. But the problem is SiriusXM is going to see, because I tried that one time. For one day, I did try to get fake followers and fake viewers, and that's not me, so I stopped after one day. The other reason I stopped is I saw people coming in, following me on Twitter and liking me on Facebook, and they were from Vietnam, from Ethiopia. And do you really think that they're listening to my show or caring about the show or caring about the music on my show? From Ethiopia, Taiwan, and all these places. Not to stereotype or telling you that they don't, but SiriusXM, if they look at that and they see these fake viewers, they're going to think Dave's show is full of fake bullshit. So they're not going to have an interest in my show when they see all the fakeness. So I try to keep it true and real to build up the followers, to be legitimate followers and legitimate likes. But in all reality, I got 7,000 Twitter followers and I've got Facebook likes of 4,000. But at least they're real. But they're not real enough for SiriusXM to think that this quantity will give them an ability to sell product. And that's all they care about. They care about selling product. They care about selling subscriptions. I tried to motivate them to say, and this is true, when I'm in New York City at the Bitter End, Bowery Electric, I'm at the Rockwood Music Hall, I never see a booth in back of these places to promote SiriusXM. There's no booth out there. I told them with my energy, my business model, my work ethic, plus my day gig, you can see that I've got a significant business during the day where I have clients that are banks and governments, and you can see that I have a work ethic. I couldn't motivate them for me to be their sales guy. And I don't know why that is. Maybe that part they should have bought into. But it looks like they were just focusing on the bands that I'm going to bring into that studio or into their music on the air. They could not see a vibrance, a unity with the rock and metal bands that I hope to bring in. And I see that with country. Now, whether I'll be able to get this show on SiriusXM based upon the country genre, I don't know, but I'm willing to try something new to give it a shot. So maybe I can help out the country bands where I tried to help out the rock and metal bands for 7 years and I couldn't get you guys off your asses. Everyone's got a love of music. I've heard all of you guys say you have a love of music. Eventually, the love turns sour. It turns bitter and it turns angry and you guys give up. How many rock bands that have been on my show have given up? I didn't look through my whole 1,451 and see who's still relevant, who's still playing. If I did, I bet half of you would have dropped out because half of you didn't have the work ethic that I do, or the unity that I have, or the unity I expected from you guys to drive one of the shows that care about you guys to the next level of success. And I know you guys are sick and tired of hearing me say this, but sometimes you guys have to have the repeated consistency so that it finally sinks into your minds that Dave knew all along what we needed, but we didn't support Dave, and now Dave's switching genres to country music. And that's the reality that I've got to deal with. And it's a bummer to play this music that I really love, but I can't play it anymore because I don't see the support system from you guys to make my show relevant. It's a true bummer, but it's got to happen. I'm not an idiot. I was born in the morning, but it wasn't yesterday morning. Let's play, I'm going to play this band. This is called Not Your Girlfriends. The thing about these guys is these girls are, I think I said they were 17. I think they're older than that. I think they're in their 20s. But you know what? When they were on my show, I got to tell you, when these girls were on my show, they shared the show on Twitter. I think they got 3,000 views. They cared about this show more than this 1,451 of you guys that have been on the show over 7 years did. Let's play their music.
I was looking at myself, I was blind, I could not see.
guys, back to the Dave Darren Show. That was Not Your Girlfriends, and it is spelled not you are. Girlfriends, friends is F-R-E-N-Z. So check them out. Follow them, like them on Facebook, or check them all out because they're tremendous. I've talked about the couple things that have failed on the show. One of them was I was attempting to get the show recorded with a live studio at Gibson Guitar Studios. Gibson's, as you know, is having financial troubles, or maybe you don't know. If you go to CNBC or any of the other news formats, they're going to tell you about Gibson having potentially bankruptcy, or at least reorganization, or trying to sell some of their lines that they bought into. They bought into Philips, Onkyo, and they bought into things that weren't their typical brand. When you start doing that and diversifying to building the Firebird X model of guitar and the robot tuner guitars, it becomes troublesome. So I'll tell you, the other problem they got is the fact that today, just like everything else, you can buy bits and pieces and create your own guitar. I'll show you the guitar that I've taken, and this is crazy, but I'll show you this. I built this guitar on my own. Check this out. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You can take a guitar. This is a Telecaster look-alike. You can tell the headstock has nothing on it. I could fabricate and put on here Telecaster and bullshit you guys, but I'm not going to do that. I bought this guitar, the actual body of the guitar, from, I forget who I bought it from, but look at it. It's beautiful. It's cream color. And you know what? Guitars are the wood, and I forget what the wood is, but I researched. It's a good quality wood. But you know what I did? I bought a Lawler pickup. And this is a vintage replica of a Charlie Christensen. You probably have no idea who that was, but he was the guy before George Benson. And before George Benson dug Wes Montgomery, who was a jazz guy. And then now there's, before him, there was Charlie Christensen. And you can see some Gibson guitars. They were Charlie Christensen guitars. They made a Gibson 175cc, standing for Charlie Christensen. This is an old guitar. This is an old pickup replica made by Lawler, L-O-L-L-A-R. And you can put this in the guitars, and you can build your own guitar. And this thing is the most tremendous guitar that I should be able to sell this. I should buy the components, and I should be able to sell it and compete with Gibson, because I could with this guitar. So I'll put it back in the box. So I showed you. So this is the problem with the show here, is also I couldn't get Gibson Guitar Studio to play the show. I was going to go there with bands. I told you guys I was going to have a big screen in back where I was going to do Skype interviews with you guys that were not local to New York City, so I could bring you into the local bands performing there. I was going to try to build a house band to be like my the old, David Letterman had. Who did he have? Who's the guy? I can't think of his name. But I got the glasses that look like him. I think I had someone here comment that they wanted my sunglasses. These look like the Paul Schaefer sunglasses, right? So I look like Paul Schaefer tonight. But I was trying to get this show in Gibson Guitar Studio to rock that studio. But now, you know what? I can't, because of all the Gibson financial messes that they're into. So now suddenly they don't contact me back. Now, maybe they don't contact me back for another reason, because they see that my rock and metal show doesn't get enough viewers to stimulate their interest. I bet they would consider solving their financial woes if my show got 50 to 60,000 viewers. Maybe they would drag my show in there to solve some of their financial woes, because they thought, okay, they can advertise on my show, advertise their guitars. Their guitars would be played by all the bands, because that was one of the restrictions to having my show performed there, was to have the show performed with Gibson guitars. And if a player came in there to play a Fender guitar, they would take the Fender out of his hand, give him a Gibson guitar to play during my show. But you know what? If I can't get the viewers to my show, I couldn't get Gibson to air my show, because number one, maybe they saw my show didn't have enough viewers. Number two, they didn't see my show as a solution to their financial woes. So, and then after that, a dominoed effect, because I thought having Gibson Guitar Studio behind me would drive the motivation for SiriusXM to think Dave's serious, man. He's doing a show in Manhattan from Gibson Guitar Studios. Gibson Guitar Studio cares about the guy. Dave's bringing bands into the show, and I had Toto on my show recently, and I had Manfred Mann on, and who else? Supertramp. I didn't air them yet. You're going to see those shows, but I could have brought those guys in and had a mainstream following at Gibson Guitar Studio to bring in the Sirius XM. It all domino effect and it broke down. And now I've got to think how I can recreate the show. And then the way I recreate the show now is to have country music bands come on the show. I talked a lot tonight. I'm going to play some more music, but let's end the show here. I'm going to end the show here with Pam Taylor. She's been tremendous. She's been actually, when she's seen me talk about her on the shows that I've been doing recently, you know what? Pam has actually promoted the show. So she's a step-up chick. Check her out. This is Pam Taylor. This is Squeeze Me on the Dave Darren Show. Let me drag this over. All right, guys, here we go.
Stop what you're doing and come pick me up. Oh.
is what I have to breathe. My oxygen is raining. Blood that runs through me races so rapidly. Tense my aggression.
Retaliate, contested